Welcome to Whippoorwill Holler. I'm Miss Lori and this is Mr. Brown. We live in the hills of Arkansas. We love the Lord. Keepers of the old way, but accept some of the new. We love to cook and we love to eat. We love to garden. It's in our blood. It's how we stay sustainable and fill our pantry. We do a lot of canning and preserving. We live a sustainable life. We love our family. We work hard. And every once in a while, we like to dance. So y'all join us. What are you doing, Paul?
Building my wife a microwave shelf. She's been after me to get it done. It cooled off a little after the rain. And this lumber we've had for years, it's cypress lumber. Not cypress. Yeah, it is cypress. And it's soaking up this walnut stain. I'm having to put it on there thick to get it in the. It's almost making it like you painted it black, ain't it?
It'll lighten up though.
It'll lighten up a little when it dries. Just a simple little old shelf, but kind I like to build. It ain't got to be perfect. Rustic. Just a rustic shelf.
Just like us, rustic and imperfect.
Yes, for sure. I just about got it all stained. Put on my rubber glove and I wore the end of the fingers out of it. I've had to rub so much, now I've got stain on the end of my fingers, but
See your fingers.
but I'm about done. I didn't want to quit and get another glove.
There ain't no doubt about that. He can shoot a pistol about as good as I can.
Making rose water is so beneficial for our skin health. There's a lot of benefits to using rose water. I've been using it for years. I make my own when I have roses available. I'm still getting, some of my roses are still blooming, even my yellow ones. And my yellow roses seem to have a lot more beautiful scent to them than even the red ones. So don't think that you can only use the red petal roses. But you do need to make sure that your roses are organic, which means have not been sprayed with pesticides or anything. So I never buy or use somebody else's rose petals to make this. I always make sure that I use my own because I know that they've not been sprayed or anything, fertilized with anything that may not be good for me. It's an easy process. The first thing I done was took my rose petals and just rinsed them in case there's any kind of little bugs. But you don't want to leave them soaking in water for any amount of time. Just rinse them and drain them. I'm going to be using my distilled water. Now, I do have a well, but especially if you're on city water, make sure you use distilled water. And just put enough water in there to cover your petals. Don't put too much water. Just enough to cover your petals. Your water from city water will have too much, anywhere from bleach to, I don't know, fluoride. I don't know what everybody puts in the city water. I just know from my surrounding cities. But we're on well water, but I still, when I'm making my rose water, I still use distilled filtered water when I'm making it. I've got just enough water to cover all my petals. This was probably petals off of, let me think, 1, 2, 3, probably 4 small roses. We're going to bring this up just like you're making tea. We're going to bring it up to just a simmer, a slow boil. You don't want to boil it to death. Just a slow simmer boil. And we're going to do that for about 15 minutes. Now you're going to know when you've simmered it enough because your petals will get really pale color. So when you see them getting pale, you'll know that you have brought out all them oils and all that fragrance out of them petals. And you'll know that you're ready to take it off the heat, cool it down, and strain it. Now our water has come to a simmer, and you can tell, you can see how the petals have already started to get pale. And what I'm going to do is I've got lots and lots and lots of lavender that I have dried and put up through the years. And I'm going to add some lavender to this. Now this is not something you have to do, but I'm going to add a little bit. Lavender has a lot of health benefits too. Not only for your skin, but for your overall mood. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. It's just going to be like icing on the cake for your rose water. So it's been simmering a little less than 5 minutes now. But we're going to try to go a full 15 minutes on a low simmer. If I think that before 15 minutes I can take it off, then I will. But like I said, it's on a low simmer, and that's where I'm going to leave it for 15 minutes. Now, I have also in the past I grow a lot of mint because I drink mint tea. you can put some mint in here. And you think, well, why would you want mint in there? Mint is very good for your complexion. It's very good for the external and internal. And it feels so refreshing on your face. So, besides the rose petals, you put lavender, mint. You can even put some lemon balm. But if all you want is just plain rose water, that's a beautiful thing. I've used rose water for many and many years. Okay, I'm going to turn my burner off. You can see how it's changed. And it will still lose more color as it sits there and cools and steeps. So I'm going to take this off the burner and just let it cool completely down. So we're going to be making some rolls. I'm in my part of my kitchen, and this is what in some homes, even back in the day, they would have called the homemaker's pantry, butler's pantry. This is kind of like where I prepare everything. It's kind of hid from the rest of my little kitchen, and this is kind of like where everything is. My sink's just behind you right here. My two refrigerators are right behind me. Everything is right here, but it's kind of hid. So if you come in to the house, my little house, my little cabin, you know, everything that I'm doing, which is pretty much cooking and baking every day of my life, it's not all out in my little main area of my kitchen. Everything's handy to me right here, from anything that I need for making bread, any kind of dish that I'm making, anything that I'm needing to cook is in this area, and I prepare it right here. Some of my canned stuff that I keep in this area so that I use it first before I go to my long-term pantry. Spices, flours, all my flour, sugars, just everything, and it's all down through here. So if you see me in here, it's because you know that I'm getting ready to make something, and this is really my station for preparing. I've got a little freezer here that I keep in the house. We have a big freezer out in the shop. It's a commercial upright freezer that we bought a couple years ago. Too big for the house. But before that, we had 3 freezers on the back porch that were running. So really and truly, we're saving money with this commercial upright freezer. Then we did running three big freezers out on the back porch. So anyways, we didn't get rid of them freezers. We kept one, a deep freeze, and we don't run it. It's still out there in in fact, I think it's in the she shed right now, in case something happens that our big freezer goes out. But that was just one of them things that we decided that we would spend money on it, because it's a very important part of the homestead. Because we do order. We don't grow our own beef anymore. You know, it's just me and Danny. So we order from local farmers, our beef and pork. But we also do a lot of hunting and fishing that fills our freezer up. So we had to have freezer space. Now, I know people have asked me, Miss Lori, what are you going to do if you have to go off grid really suddenly? I'm going to do a lot of canning, and I'm prepared for that. So you can't sit around and worry about stuff all the time. You just have to be prepared to be able to take care of stuff. We're going to make some bread. Well, I'm using a bread recipe, but we're going to make some butter rolls. And I remember eating these years ago. And I think it's when I made them mainly for the kids and sometimes during holidays. Me and Danny don't eat a lot of bread right now like we used to. We've cut back on it. So I'm not doing as much bread baking as I used to. But as winter comes on and cold weather and we get to start up the wood cook stove, y'all know Miss Lori. You know I'm going to be baking bread a lot. So let's get started. This is going to be an easy one. I've got this new bread. You know, it's not a bread machine. It's more of a helper. And what it does, and I'll bring you up closer. I found this on Amazon. I had some points in my Amazon Prime. And I always like to get things that, maybe something I know that's going to help me. And something that I've never had. And this is one of them. Because what this does is it mixes, it kneads, and it proofs your bread dough. All in this one little bowl. So, you know, why not? And it's easy to use. And the several times that I have used it since I've not had it very long, it's done a good job. So I will show that to you, and then at the end, well, I'll put it down. I'll put the link down in my description box below the video is what I do. If in my Amazon store if you're interested in it. But I'm glad that I used my points for this because it's really come in handy. We're going to be making butter rolls. And I'm just using my basic bread recipe out of my first cookbook. I don't have any more of my first cookbooks left because I'm working on my second cookbook. It's going to be way on into the winter before it's printed and comes out for sale. But when it does, I will let y'all know. So for new subscribers, a lot of these older recipes will be in the new second version of my cookbook. But this was my first one. I sold out 5 times. I was very blessed, and it's just kind of like your church lady cookbook, blessed table. But anyways, my basic bread recipe is in here, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that says 1 tablespoon of salt, and that is wrong. So if y'all got my cookbook and y'all probably made this bread recipe, y'all will probably know that's not right, Miss Lori. That should have been 1 teaspoon of salt. So anyways, I've got my yeast. I've got a 1/2 cup of warm water, and I've got 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast in here. And I've also put a teaspoon of sugar in here. You don't have to use sugar, you can use honey. In fact, I'm fixing to put some honey in my recipe because the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of sugar. I put a teaspoon of sugar in here, then I'm going to use a teaspoon of honey in my recipe. And you're going to need 4 cups of unbleached flour. I'm going to use a couple cups of my milled berries, wheat berries, the soft white wheat berries. That's what I'm going to use. You're going to need 4 cups, but I'm going to do 2 cups of whole wheat, my fresh milled wheat berries, and then I'm going to do 2 cups of my bread flour. Now you can do all wheat. I just like the texture that combining, you know, the both of the flours it makes. You can use nothing but all-purpose flour if that's all you got. But I do stress the point, if you're going to use all-purpose flour from the store, get unbleached. Because once they process that flour, it just does not have any, it doesn't have any of the nutritions, a little bit of nutrition that flour has, your wheat has. It's just processed plumb out of it pretty much. So I keep most of what flour I know I'm going to need for recipes, I keep in my little area here. My homemaker pantry is what I call it. But in my big pantry that used to be our bedroom is where most of my bulk stuff is kept. So I've got 2 cups of my whole wheat home milled flour, and I'm putting 2 cups of bread flour. And I need a teaspoon of salt. And then I need 1.5 cups of water. But I'm going to go ahead and put my yeast in here. I'm going to stir this around just a minute so that my yeast water does not hit a bunch of salt. Sometimes that can ruin your yeast if salt and your yeast comes in contact. So I'm going to pour my yeast in there. And then I'm going to go get me another 1.5 cups of water. Okay, I've got 1.5 cups of water here, and I'm going to only put 1 cup. Just like that. I'm going to bring y'all closer so you can see. And I'm going to turn it on. Now, it does have a lid. So what it'll do is you can put this on here if you want to, just like this, and the top even comes off where you can add stuff to it. And I will put this on when it's fixing to proof. And I press start. Okay, I'm going to add my other 1/2 cup of water because I can tell that it's going to have it. Now I've got it set on 13 minutes. So once it mixes, it will go ahead and knead for about 10 minutes. Now I meant to add a teaspoon of honey in here, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. I forgot it. Okay, our bread dough has been mixed. It's a real sticky dough. It smells good. Now, I've got it on ferment, which means for it to proof. And then what I'm going to do is you can go up or you can go down. I want 1 hour, so I'm going to go down. Then I'm just going to push start. So this will warm up just at the right temperature, and it'll help rise your bread. And then you can either go ahead and knead it again and let it proof again if you want to. But I'm going to, after 1 hour, I'll bring it out of this bowl. I'll punch it down. I'll make my rolls, and then I'll let those rise before I put them in the oven. Okay, I'm going to show y'all how I use my rose water. Now this is just something I use with the rest of my skincare. And I love keeping the refrigerator, not just to keep it so to last longer, but because when it's cool like that and you spray this on your face, it just makes your face feel so regenerated, is what it does when it's cool like that. And what I do is I just close my eyes and I just spray just like that. Especially if you're, I don't use a lot of makeup. I don't use a lot of base makeup on my face. I'm not saying I never do. Sometimes I do. And before I put it on, I always spray it with just a little bit of rose water. So anyways, that's how you make some really easy, good for your skin rose water. So if you have some roses left over, make you some rose water. I think you'll really enjoy it. The other thing about rose water is some people even cook with it. There's recipes out there that I don't know if it's, maybe it's Indian food, I can't remember, but they do use rose water in like cookie recipes and stuff like that, if you like that fragrant kind of taste. So you can also cook with it too. Might be good. Another thing you can do with it is I have used it during the winter time in the humidifier, especially with the wood cook stove going all winter, which is how we heat our cabin, and I cook on it too. So it really gets dry in the house. So I use a humidifier, especially in my bedroom sometimes at night. And you can put that rose water, of course I've got lavender in mine too, and put that in your humidifier. Okay, you see how the lid is kind of fogged up? That's because the bowl got just warm enough to help to rise my dough. And you can see in here, the dough has risen. And it is about double. And it took 1 hour to get to that stage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to where I'm going to be. I may just do it over here in my prepping area. And I'm going to take this out with a little bit of flour on my board, and I'm going to knead it a little bit. Then we're going to make our butter rolls, and then we're going to let them rise just a little bit before we cook them. Now you see how sticky this dough is. If you wanted to, you could add a little bit more flour to this and then turn it back on to the kneading cycle and then let it gather it up and knead it in here. But I'm going to take mine out. I've done it both ways. I can smell of course, the yeast, and we love yeast breads. That's our favorite. Even over sourdough, we love our yeast breads. I have done it both ways, where I just let it gather it up again with some extra flour. You just put a little bit in there at a time and let it knead it again. But we're going to do it by hand this time. But I can smell that yeast, and I can smell the fresh milled wheat. It just has a distinctive smell to it. Okay, I'm going to spread my softened butter on top of this, just like if you were making cinnamon rolls. You can melt your butter if you want to a little bit. Mine's just at room temperature. And you can see this is just some butter that I had left over. We went camping. It's really good butter. And I think it's from New Zealand. I think I got it at the Walmart from Mountain Home, Arkansas. I had never seen it before, but it's a really good tasting butter. And I just wanted something special for when we went camping and we had biscuits and all kinds of good stuff. So I'm going to be spreading this on top of my dough, just like this. And there's just a lot you can do with this. Like I said, you can put a little bit of cinnamon and brown sugar on top of this and make cinnamon rolls. You can do garlic, and you can even make it savory. You can make it with a little bit of maybe chopped up ham and some Swiss cheese, or just sky's the limit. Just anything. You can put maybe some pie filling in here and roll it up. Make it like a breakfast roll. This is just your old-fashioned, simple, not a lot of ingredient bread recipe. Now, this recipe is going to be dense because it's got 2 cups of my fresh milled wheat berries in it. But you don't have to put fresh milled flour in it. Just use your regular flour that you always use for making your breads. You can use your all-purpose. You can use bread flour. Using 2 cups of my whole wheat milled flour, most people probably would have just put 1 cup to 3 cups of regular flour, so it wouldn't be so dense. But nevertheless, when you've got whole wheat berries that you're wanting to use, and I have I have several hundred pounds of wheat berries that I need to get some of them used up. Now, wheat berries have a shelf life of 30 years, so I'm not worried about that, but it's just more nutritious for you. The taste of the bread will be different and will be denser. That's for sure. But we'll just be rolling this up, and we'll be cutting them just like cinnamon rolls. They're very simple, just a rustic, simple bread recipe. But you can do this with any of your bread recipes. This is just a way to incorporate lots of butter in the middle of your rolls. We'll be cutting this up in like cinnamon rolls, and we'll be putting them in muffin tin. Now, some of these I'm going to be freezing. You can see how I've got that spread all over it. But some of the rolls, probably most of them, I'm going to be freezing. I'm only going to probably cook 6 of them for me and Mr. Brown, and then the rest I'll flash freeze, which means to slice them up and put them on a cookie sheet on a piece of parchment paper and stick them in the freezer and freeze them all the way through. And then when they get done freezing, I'll just throw them in a freezer bag. And then when I'm ready to get some out, I'll take some out and I'll lay them out and I'll just let them. Now, these right here are just my silicone muffin pans. If you want to, you can spray them too. I don't see no reason. That's just the regular one on this side. I just stuck my silicone one on the other side, but these you probably need to spray or put a little bit of butter in there. I love these silicone muffin molds. They're just really good. I just love them. These were gifted to me, and I absolutely use them all the time. So when I take my frozen ones out, these right here, probably they're about an inch, inch and a half. So I'm going to cut these about an inch because they're going to rise. They're going to come to a second rise before I bake them. But the ones that will be frozen, I'll just, like you do frozen biscuits, you just take them out. And some of them you can just throw in the oven. But these you will have to let thaw, and you'll have to let them rise a little bit. before you stick them in the oven. And that will be your second rise on your frozen rolls. So you would take your frozen ones out, let them thaw, rise, and then bake them. But these 6 right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw them in the oven at 350 degrees. But first we're going to let them rise, probably about 30 minutes. We'll just let them rise about 30 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and cut these up and get these on a cookie sheet. But let me get these over here in a warm place with no drafts and let them rise about 30 minutes. Okay, I got the rest of it cut up, and I'm going to put them in the freezer just like this. And it's going to take several hours for them to freeze all the way through before you want to take them out and throw them in a freezer bag. Okay, they're going in the oven at 350. I think I almost overproofed them. We'll see. But you see them lines of butter in there? Don't make them oh so good. Y'all remember that fermented lemon, ginger, honey we made? And it's been going on, I wish I'd looked back. I was going to and I done forgot, but it's been over 4 weeks, I believe. Might go back and check that out. But all it was so much honey, and then you've got your cut up ginger, your lemon slices, and I'll put that link down below where we made our honey here. This was for us to use this winter when we've got a sore throat, a cold, and we just need a good cup of hot tea, or you can even use this honey on a biscuit. You can use it in your yogurt. You can use it for cooking on your pancake. We're going to be using it in some hot tea. A lot of y'all asked me to go ahead and show how I would use this. Say I've got a cough and my throat's just a little bit scratchy. I think some people would take the lemon and ginger out. Mine still look really good because I've been, after several weeks of fermentation, I left it out about probably going on 3 weeks, I believe. I'll have to look back. And then I went ahead, it was real bubbly on top, and I just went ahead and stuck it in the refrigerator. I shook it up really good before I use it. You can strain this before you put it in the refrigerator. Take all the lemon and ginger out. I'm going to leave it in here because I might want to use some of this lemon and ginger in something that I'm either drinking. I can put a piece of lemon in my tea or just anything like that. If you don't want to put this in the refrigerator and you just want it to be shelf stable, you will need to, after you get the fermentation where you want it, you need to go ahead and strain your lemon and your ginger out of it and then put it in your pantry. I like to keep mine in my refrigerator. Now, how much you'll put to a cup of hot tea is absolutely up to you. Now, you got to remember, this has got lemon and it's got ginger in it. So it's going to still have a tart, gingery, lemony, taste to it. You're not just going to taste the honey. But the honey should give it just a little bit of sweetness. But if it's not sweet enough, see, I'm going to put about 3 teaspoons of mine. Let's just say that my throat's really, really sore, just really needs something healthy on it. Ginger's good for you. The lemon is good for you, and it's a soother for your throat, especially the honey. Now, there's some people say they make this and they put garlic in it. I would say make you 2 of these. Make one and then put garlic in it. But for me, making teas and something sweet with it, my teas and stuff, I don't want no garlic in it. We eat a lot of garlic as it is anyways. Yeah, it's tart. It is tart. But like I said, it's got all that lemon, which that juice come out of it, the lemons, plus it's got that ginger in it, so it's going to have a little bit of bite. So if you think it's going to be really sweet because of honey, it's going to be more tart than sweet. So you can even add more honey to it, or just add more honey to your tea. But it is good for what ails you. And if you don't want to put it in your tea or anything, just take you a good teaspoon of it when you're not feeling so good. So that's how I would use my lemon ginger honey. Just like that. And I might even go ahead and add some more honey to this and put it back in the refrigerator. That way it'd be just a little bit sweeter for me. But whether if it's sweet enough or not, we always have to remember that stuff like this that will get us through the winter when we don't have any kind of cold medicine, or we don't like taking over-the-counter cold medicine. And I'm not saying this is going to cure a cold, because it's not. It just might make you feel a little bit better. Of course, a cup of hot tea always makes anybody feel better, don't it? And that's really hot. And just remember that it's fermented too. Our butter rolls, they come out looking a little bit different because I use 2 cups of the fresh milled wheat, whole wheat. Anything that you're going to use whole wheat, especially fresh milled, is going to be denser, and the color, the overall color coming out of the oven is going to be lighter. If I'd have used nothing but all bread flour, it would have been a lighter, less dense roll. And when you use fresh milled whole wheat, your wheat berries, it's got a really nutty taste to it, and you have to remember that. So your overall roll is going to have a little bit of different taste to it if you use your own milled berries. Now with this recipe, if you wanted to, only use 1 cup of your fresh milled berries and then 3 cups of bread flour or all-purpose, and that'll cut back on the density of it. You don't have to use fresh milled flour. Just use your store-bought bread flour or all-purpose. And you can see these turned out just a little bit denser, like I said, because of the fresh milled flour. But all that butter is inside of these butter rolls. And like I said, you can do it with garlic. You can do it with your cinnamon. You make cinnamon rolls. You can make a savory out of it by putting ham and cheese in the middle, or just make regular rolls out of it. I make a lot of hot rolls, and you don't even have to roll it out and put butter in the middle. Just pinch you off some rolls and make you some hot rolls, or make you a loaf of bread, whichever. It's just an easy, simple, old recipe for a loaf of bread. So anyways, that is our buttery rolls. And like I said, you can tell when you take it apart, right in the middle, it'll start rolling out like a cinnamon roll, and that's where your butter is. So anyways, I hope you like this recipe, and I hope y'all enjoyed being with us today. Remember to take care of yourself, and anything that you can make homemade is always going to be better for you. So we'll see you in a few days, hopefully on Friday, with cooking from my cookbooks. And we're going to be cooking from the old Jiffy recipe pamphlet cookbook. Some of y'all done told me y'all done found one even on Amazon, and you've done ordered it, and I think somebody had done got one already. So we'll be doing some recipes, at least a couple Friday on that. So cheers to you. Hot tea. Keep care. We love y'all, and God bless.